After Julian fell asleep, his phone lit up with a new message. You coming tomorrow night? I'm
so
sore. You beast. A heartbeat later, a selfie followed. Deep plunge neckline. Bedroom eyes. She was gorgeous. And maybe 21. I glanced at my own reflection. Bare face. Hair scraped back. Yesterday's t-shirt. I remembered our wedding day. Julian's vow. Julia, I swear you'll never lose. I remembered, too, the call last week when he told a buddy I was dull as dishwater. I stared at the screen for 5 silent seconds. Then opened the pin Asher had dropped me. Black stockings. Stilettos. Coat over nothing. Walked out and slammed the door. Before we continue, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Late that same night, after I peeled Julian's sour-smelling clothes off him and started the slow cooker for tomorrow's pork rib soup, I stretched my stiff shoulders and headed for bed. His phone flashed again. One casual swipe. You coming tomorrow night? I'm
so
sore. You beast. My heart missed a full beat. Disbelief came first. Fingers trembling. I typed in his passcode and opened WhatsApp. Pink bunny avatar. All bubblegum innocence. Another message arrived. A low-cut mirror shot. Lips pouting. I recognized her. Stacy. The new intern. Milky skin. 22-inch waist. College glow. I inhaled. Counted to 5. Scrolled up. Pages of hearts and pet names. The sky is so blue today. Look, there's a cloud shaped like a heart just for you. Period cramps. Need your hugs to heal. They texted sunrise to midnight. A 2-sided fever. At first he'd answered in grunts. Lately he sent paragraphs. Turns chilly after 5. Wear the longer skirt. Don't catch cold. Bringing pork rib soup tomorrow. Simmered it myself. Little greedy cat. I looked toward the kitchen at the clay pot I had set for him and laughed once. Short. Cracked. So my broth was courier service for another woman. Farther up. My eyes snagged on remember your pill. What pill? I didn't want to know. I lifted my gaze to the mirror. Tear-streaked, swollen, foreign. When grief maxes out, it anesthetizes. The duvet rustled. Julian rolled over, still lost in whiskey dreams. I wiped my face, laid the phone exactly where I'd found it, and walked out. When the master bedroom door clicked shut, a sleepy murmur floated after me. Babe. I swallowed the bile and kept walking. In the guest suite bed, tears dripped hot into my ears. My index finger stung. Barely noticed the cut from chopping ribs at midnight. Julian loves my cooking, my soups. For 2 years of marriage, I've hand-washed, hand-seasoned, hand-fed every bite. I wasn't born into this life. I transmigrated into the novel's tragic second lead, Julia, the lovesick spare tire who'd hang herself when the hero walked away. The day I landed in her 18-year-old skin, I erased the hero's number and picked the quiet, steady boy who watched from the library stacks, Julian. 8 years. College to courthouse. I bet everything on him. Against my family's roar, and every bank statement. I stood my ground. When his startup couldn't make payroll, I sold my bags and passed out flyers in Manhattan. From broke mornings to Series C champagne, I walked every mile at his side. The day Vansiteca's valuation hit 9 zeros, I retired my title and picked up a ladle. Tonight Derek practically carried him in rough client dinner. Julia. And now I picture the intern's sheets still warm on his back. I cried myself into a thin, gray sleep. Morning, I opened the guest suite door and padded barefoot to the kitchen. Julian sat at the marble island, buttering sourdough. He glanced up, all lazy dimples. Slept in the spare room. Couldn't stand your man's Odabar. Huh? I steamed milk, fried eggs. Come taste your hubby's heart-shaped breakfast when you're ready. I studied him, searching for cracks. How can yesterday and today coexist in the same man? The boy who once promised I'd never lose had folded me into a losing hand overnight. Every syllable in that phone was a blade. I was sliced and salted. I pulled out the stool opposite him and sat. I want a divorce. The words hung, small and calm. His expression flicked from soft to storm in a nanosecond. What the hell? Julia. I came home late once. We're in the middle of a funding push. I'm exhausted. Don't pile on, okay? The stranger across from me swallowed the last of his coffee, knuckles whitening around the cup. Company drains you. Talking to me drains you. But climbing off the intern doesn't, right? Silence dropped like a snapped power line. Panic flickered across his face before the excuses rushed in. It's nothing. She's like a kid sister. You know I'm a caretaker. He tilted his head. Puppy eyes on autopilot. The look that used to thaw me in 30 seconds. I gave him nothing, so the custodial services now extend to her mattress. Good to know. He froze, shocked I'd leave the ladder on the ground. Color drained, then surged back darker. You snooped. If you trusted me, you wouldn't need to spy. Veins ridged his forearm as he gripped the cup. Explain that. I let out a dry laugh. Your passcode's my birthday. I didn't pry. Her message lit up in my face. First time I ever opened your phone, also the last. Because once we sign the divorce petition, whatever Whatever's on there won't be my business. His breathing turned shallow. He tugged at his collar. I won't sign. I'll fire her today. You'll see. Give me one more chance. He lunged around the island to grab my hand. I stepped back, palms raised. Save it. This time I believe you, and next time I check. There'll be a crib in the background. You said I'm lifeless and dull. Go enjoy your sparkling little co-ed. Julian's face went paper white. You heard everything. I was just talking trash. I didn't mean it. Julia, watching him advance. I darted into the guest suite I'd used the night before and locked the door. Only Julian's frantic rattling of the knob was left behind. Julia, get out here. Ever since the wedding I've been the one keeping you. When the door refused to budge, he kicked it a few times, then left for work. Listening to his footsteps fade, I huddled on the bed, knees pulled to my chest, tears springing loose instantly. Julian and I had come to this, of course it hurt. 8 entire years. Every joy and sorrow I owned was tangled up with him. A few days earlier I'd come back from the Union Square Green Market, planning to cook the garlic butter crawfish he loved. The moment I opened the door I overheard him chatting with a buddy. Snatches of laughter drifted in from the terrace and nailed me to the floor. Her, zero spice, dead boring. I say I like one dish and she cooks it forever. Same in bed, same old routine. Stiff as a board. Love, I'm not even sure anymore. After 8 years I'm just used to her. She takes decent care of me, so I make do. From that day on I started sleeping in the guest suite, on purpose or not, and stopped letting him touch me. When Julian sensed the chill, he showered me with jewelry and promised a getaway once he cleared his calendar, just the two of us. His recent sweetness had begun to melt my anger, and I was starting to enjoy the attention. Then last night's chat history clubbed me. Every line mocked the sacrifices I'd made for him. It felt like a ruthless hand yanking me out of the clouds, slamming me into the mud, smearing filth all over me. I rang home. Mom, I was wrong. I'm divorcing Julian. Through my sobs. Mom didn't ask what had happened. Maybe a mother just knows. Between people who love you, words are optional. Good. Come home. I'll have the lawyer start the paperwork. Divorce petition in hand. I walked into Vansateka's Manhattan office. The staff were used to me turning up with soup or lunch, so no one buzzed Julian. Just outside his office a syrupy voice floated through the crack. Peeking in, I saw a girl perched on Julian's lap, her low-cut top barely restraining her curves. His fingers traced lazy circles on her waist. She cooed, batting her lashes. It's your fault my back's so sore. You're awful. She punched his chest playfully. Pouting, Julian leaned to whisper in her ear. She flushed and shot him a coy glare. You didn't sleep with her last night, right? If you dare touch her you'll be sorry. No way. That little vixen here drained me dry. Your boring wife doesn't even get a turn. My knuckles whitened on the knob. So this was the Julian who'd apologized this morning, who swore he'd already fired the girl, rotting into someone I didn't know while I wasn't looking. I stepped inside. The girl jumped off his lap, stammering, Julia, I was just... Julian's jaw dropped. Apparently he'd never expected me to show up at noon after a morning blow-up. That's why he'd felt safe pawing her in the office. And the rest of the staff looked unfazed. In this whole charade, I was the only clown kept in the dark. Julia, listen, it's not what you think. I was coaching her on the quarterly numbers, he blurted, and shot her a warning glance. Oh, yes, the CEO invests so much in our development. The little green tea helper chimed in. I didn't have time for their two-man act. Holding back an eye roll that threatened to snap skyward, I slapped the divorce petition onto the desk. Spare me the duet. I'm here to end this. Assets are sorted. Sign. I snatched a pen from the desk and held it out. His brows crashed together, veins bulging at his temples. Julia, feeling brave today. We settle our issues at home. Stirring crap in my office. What's that about? The pen clattered across the room. He barked so loudly, so righteously. You'd swear I was the toddler. Exactly. You're older than me. Calling you sis is polite, right? The girl fluttered her lashes, stressing my age. Triumph sparkling in her eyes. Zero shame for wrecking a home. Julian is young, successful, and generous. Don't blow this up just because he mentors me at work. Julian, I'm sorry. I'll resign tomorrow. It's all my fault. Julia misunderstood you. Boo-hoo. Such premium-grade tea talk. Dump her in Lake Tahoe, and the line for a taste would wrap around the block for days. I glanced at her badge, Stacy. Since the CEO is so hands-on and brilliant. Homewrecker, sorry, Stacy. Please take him off my hands. My icy stare pinned her. The accidental homewrecker jab reddened her eyes. She burrowed into Julian's chest, lips trembling in grievance. Julian glared at me and curled an arm around her. Apologize now. Stacy's young and innocent. She doesn't get adult games. Watching him shield her reminded me of college, when he used to defend me from bullies. How the tables turn, now the one in his arms isn't me. But none of it matters anymore. Fencing with trash just soils your own blade. He hadn't started rotting the moment I found out. out. He'd been rotten long before, and I'd simply caught up. A fireball of rage throbbed inside me. Last night's bottled emotions surging like a tide about to drown me. Right. She's so young she bypasses adult games and dives straight into adult actions to prove her innocence. Realizing I knew exactly what they'd been up to, Stacy let fat teardrops roll. I'm sorry. I only wanted to give myself to the man I love. Is love a crime? Since when is sleeping with someone else's husband justified? Love isn't wrong. Crushes don't cue. But people ought to know shame. My brain spun, and words shot out. No, you're right. My bad. I'll clear out. Once I'm gone you two can do whatever, wherever. Tumble like rabbits. Sky high. Earth shaking. None of my business. Julian's face darkened. Jaw clenched. Muscles twitching with impatience ready to burst. Gazing at whimpering Stacy, he glowered at me and spat through gritted teeth. Get lost. That's a man's love. Dirt cheap. In all our years together, it was the first time he'd hurled that word at me. You'll sign this divorce whether you like it or not. 3 days. Or I serve you papers in court. Everything you've built is pocket change next to the Vance estate. After all we've shared, I'll still leave you a shred of dignity if you quit while you're ahead. I left the divorce petition on Julian's desk, pulled out my phone, and stared at the photo Asher had sent. Beneath the soaked white shirt, lean abs peeked through like a promise. I checked the location he'd pinned, Malibu Beach Villa, and stayed silent for a few seconds. Went home, put on a face, and squeezed in a call to a moving company to come get my things. I slid into stockings I hadn't touched in ages, stepped into silver stilettos, and fired the convertible coupe toward the coast. I stood at the door of the Malibu Beach Villa and knocked. Asher opened it, the scent of lemon body wash hitting me first. He'd calculated the effect, knotting a towel only at his waist. His half-damp hair wasn't quite dry, drops sliding along his cheekbone to his throat, then slipping over his collarbone. The corners of his eyes were red, and his bare torso carried a faint flush. I narrowed my eyes, appreciating the full post-shower masterpiece. Julian wasn't ugly, but beside Asher he might as well have been background noise. Sis, do I look good? His peach blossom eyes curved slightly, one small canine flashing. I screamed inside, absolute specimen, yet let none of it reach my face. Sis, I'm squeaky clean. Want a test drive? He stretched out a long, articulated hand and tugged me inside. He pinned me to the door, showering me with kisses. It was the first time I'd kissed a man who wasn't Julian, and it felt better than fine. When I didn't resist, he scooped me up and carried me to the bedroom. A night of beautiful chaos. Next morning I woke, rubbed the ache from my waist, and studied the sculpted side of Asher's sleeping face. I finally understood why my best friend had such a thing for younger guys. I opened my phone. Julian had fired off a dozen voice notes on WhatsApp and tried 20-odd video calls. Good thing I'd muted him long ago and left the phone on silent. I hate interruptions when I'm handling business. Where did you go last night? We need to talk. I tapped the message and read his rant. The man was comedy gold. Yesterday I'd walked into his office to talk. He told me to get lost. Overnight I vanish and he blows up my phone. Pathetic. In 2 years of marriage, this was the first time Julian had ever shown this level of concern. The first flood of calls. I picked my clothes off the floor, slipped into them and my shoes, and walked out. Where the hell were you? Dressed like that? Julian's face was storm black, barking the question before I cleared the doorway. Out all night. Stockings and red lips. Take a wild guess. I let the sarcasm drip, eyes raking his expression. His face went darker, teeth clenched, gaze fixed on my throat like he wanted to strangle answers out of me. Julia, how dare you? Who is he? How dare I? It was fun, way more fun than you. 8 years of the same routine. I'm bored. Arms folded. I studied him. His look cycled from rage to disbelief to something wounded. Julia, is this payback? We're even now. I'll dump Stacy. We stay married. We start over, okay? A woman forgives and calls it even only when she still loves the man and is willing to settle. I no longer loved Julian, and I wasn't interested in scorekeeping. He had drained every drop of that love these past days, word by word, and all I wanted now was out. Wake up. There's nothing left between us. The moment you joke to your buddies that I'm frigid, the moment you wouldn't let go of Stacy, you already betrayed us. You're the one who murdered the Julia who once saw no one but you. I threw his own words back at him, watching his face pale, yet felt no sweetness of revenge. I just wanted this toxic, suffocating story finished, to never see him again. When he heard it, his color drained, voice softening, he pleaded, Julia, I messed up. Let me win you back. 8 years. You must still feel something, right? He sounded small, head bowed almost to his chest. I didn't sleep, waited all night. I'm not asking who you were with, Julia. I'm dizzy and starving. Make me your pork rib soup, please. He lifted his face. Tears shimmered in his eyes. Dark circles, stubble, the picture of a man falling apart. I looked at his pitiful show and felt only revulsion. Tell Stacy to cook for you. You carried soup to her often enough. Time to taste her skills. Pretty girl, master of tea art, her broth should have a special fragrance. I turned, went to my room, and tucked my passport and documents into my bag. Back in the hall, I tossed over my shoulder. Sign the papers. Dragging this out is pointless. I parked the coupe in the Vance Estate garage, had lunch with my parents, then retreated to my old room, staring at the white ceiling. I replayed Asher above me from the night before. I remembered meeting him right after I transmigrated into Julia's body. Back then Julia was hopelessly infatuated with Hunter. Asher was Hunter's distant cousin, and more than once the boy had signaled his interest. Knowing the novel's ending for Julia, I'd kept my distance from anyone named Sterling, so I ignored every spark he sent. Once Julian and I became official, Asher slowly faded from view. Still, every birthday through college an anonymous gift arrived, no name, but I had my suspicions. For years I never answered. 6 months ago, he was transferred to the Manhattan office. At a couple of industry dinners with Julian, I'd spotted him across the room. Amid the crowd, he simply watched me. When Julian and I started cracking, Asher seemed to know. Every few days a text would come checking my mood. The day I asked Julian for a divorce, Asher sent me that photo, a matte pin, and a string of messages. Sis, I've liked you for years, look back. I'm still here. Julian started cheating 6 months ago. I've waited forever for you to say the word. I'm taller, hotter, richer. Why not test drive me? I'm very well behaved. Chastity is a man's best dowry. I've saved myself for you, sis. Which brought me to knocking on his door. If Julian could betray me, why should I care about his feelings? Asher's face and body were built exactly for my tastes. Clean, earnest, young. Why not try? Tried. Approved. A man's love might be a performance, but a younger man's stamina is real. I've always been able to pick things up and set them down. Life is short. Enjoy the moment. Affection that shows up late is cheaper than weeds. From the day I moved home, Julian clocked out every evening, cooked, and drove over with meals my parents refused to touch. Dad had warned me the day we married. He didn't see it lasting. Years later, his prediction came true. Thank God we never had kids. The exit is clean. For half a month Julian spent nights in his car outside my house. More than once I passed the balcony and saw him leaned against the roof, eyes on my window. But the second I finished in the bathroom, I'll be right back in my room. Video chatting with Asher. Good-looking bait is irresistible. Asher really knows how to play his cards. That weekend, after he clocked off, we went grocery shopping together. We just paid and stepped outside when we ran head-on into Stacy and Julian. The two of them looked as united as oil and water. Stacy was talking to Julian with a face full of grievance, while he wore the expression of a man dying to be anywhere else. See, this is Julian. Whatever he can't have is the one thing that keeps him up at night. Sure of your favor, he grows reckless, never cherishing what's in front of him, forever mourning a love that's already slipped away. Julia, I've spent every day thinking this over. I know I screwed up. I let a ghost into my head. Hit me, okay, yell at me, whatever. Once you've let it out, we go home. From now on I'll tell you where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm seeing. I can't live without you. Julian looked haggard. The old vital spark in him had guttered out. I ignored him and tugged Asher's sleeve to steer us around them. The instant we brushed past, Julian clamped his fingers around my wrist. It's for him you're doing this to me, right? Do you even know who he is? Hunter's cousin. Still hung up on Hunter. So you're pulling the next best thing routine with his kid cousin? Julian's voice dripped acid over Asher and me. I'd meant to stay silent, but I can't stand anyone trashing Asher. Before I could speak, Asher locked a hand on my shoulder and moved me behind him. First, Julia isn't you. She's not shameless enough to use me as a stand-in. Second, I'm a hell of a lot better looking than Hunter, and then you, so nobody here is second best. Third, even if I were the understudy, I'd still be thrilled. You could crawl on your knees and Julia wouldn't glance down. Ask yourself how you managed to lose a woman this incredible. Watching him, I decided right then he was the most breathtaking thing I'd ever seen. Julian snorted at the reply. You treat her like some treasure. She chased my brother from the day she turned 15, ran to his classroom rain or shine for 3 straight years. On her 18th birthday she even cut school to wait outside his lecture hall. Tell me, did your big brother pop her cherry in high school?
Ha! Ha! Ha!
So I got his leftovers. And now you're dying to collect mine? Every drop of blood in my body surged into my head. I never dreamed Julian would weaponize that story to wound me. Yes, before I transmigrated into Julia, the original girl had chased the male lead for 3 years. But I also know nothing physical ever happened between her and Hunter. Besides, Julian and I had proof of my first time. He'd been ecstatic that night, holding me tight, swearing he was blessed to be my first and vowing he'd never let me lose. Now he was not only making me lose, he was trying to torch my budding relationship with Asher by spreading filthy rumors. The calm I'd worn cracked like thin ice. Panic flooded in, snuffing the light from my eyes. Scared Asher might doubt me, I clutched his shirt and blurted, "It's not true, he's lying." After days of stone-faced silence, Julian finally saw a crack in my armor, so he drove the wedge deeper, eyes shining with spite. "Think she's some goddess. She's nothing but a used-up." Tears burst out without warning, a dam crumbling under years of pressure. My lips trembled, a broken whimper escaping. The next second a lemon-scented jacket dropped over my head. "Shh! Don't listen. Don't be afraid." Immediately after came the sound of Julian hitting the pavement, Asher's fist meeting his face, cutting off whatever obscenity had been coming. What I said is, a second blow, and Julian went silent. Only a spineless punk waves a woman's virtue like a weapon. "Keep talking if you've got a death wish." All I could hear was Stacy screaming for help and Asher's fists finding their mark again and again. Sorrow and terror crashed over me. The whole world collapsed in that instant. Every negative feeling I'd stockpiled over the past week surged in like a riptide. I swayed backward. Before I hit the floor, I fell into arms that smelled of lemon. "Big sis." I punched him. "It's okay. It's over." I drifted into a long dream, a dream of the world I'd lived in before I slipped into this book. In that world I was an orphan. No one taught me how to love, and I never received love either. Compared with my classmates, my life was barren. I didn't dare window shop. No money. Before every meal I had to tally what remained on my card. My only pleasure was novels. Inside their pages no one knew me. No one mocked me. I could slip into the heroine's shoes and pretend I was a rich young lady who never worried about her next meal. So when I learned I transmigrated into this book I didn't resist. Here I had parents who loved me. But Julian's words today struck like a bullet straight into the brow of the girl I'd been in that other life. Over there I'd lived through uglier chapters. The kind that still jerk me awake at night in tears. "Big sis, you've been asleep 2 days. Time to open those eyes. I've been simmering porridge forever. Come drink it with me." Groggily I heard Asher, and then warmth wrapped my hand, his palm against mine. If the host is in pain, the system can return her to her original world. For the first time I heard the voice of the system that had ferried me into this novel. "Big sis, no one gets to use chastity as a bludgeon against a woman. The world was born beneath women's skirts. We are brilliant and magnificent by birthright. I've liked you since I was 16, liked you for years, waited for years. We've only just gotten together. Don't bail on me now. Wake up. Big sis. Stop sleeping." Right, Asher's correct. Virtue should never be a blade turned on women, whether in the world I came from or this one. We've done nothing wrong. The ones at fault are those who hurt us, who spin lies about us. The heat traveling from his palm seeped into my bones, turning to strength. "System, thank you for sending me here. Here I've tasted parents' love for the first time and found the person I want to spend my life with. I choose to stay." Acknowledged. Respecting host's wish, remaining in current narrative. I opened my eyes to Asher dozing at the bedside, curls wild like a lost puppy's fur. I lifted my free hand and ruffled those curls. He snapped awake. When I saw the red rims around his eyes, I smiled. Realization hit, and he hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. "You scared me to death. You slept 2 whole days. Every test said you were fine, but you just wouldn't wake up. Big sis was wrong. I won't ditch you again." His body froze, my first ever sweet talk. "Thanks to my old life, I'm different from the original Julia. I'm lousy at voicing feelings." Asher released me, and I met eyes bright as galaxies. He pressed a kiss to my forehead like I was something priceless. "I'm starving. Let me taste your porridge." He opened the thermos and fed me spoon by spoon. The porridge tasted of honeyed mornings, sweet all the way down. Julian had been beaten into the hospital by Asher, and with the Sterling family's power behind him, Julian couldn't touch him. Still, I carried a knot of anger toward Julian, so fierce I itched to slap him across the face. I summoned the system and asked whether I still had loyalty points left, and if I could trade them for props. The system informed me that, because I'd accidentally stripped the original heroine Julia of her love-struck brain, and spared her a tragic death, it was rewarding me with bonus points, coupled with the points I'd earned by living well all these years. I had enough. Those points could grant me 2 wishes. I voiced them to the system. First, may Asher and I love each other in good health and grow old together. Second, may May Julian be blessed with many children and a house full of grandchildren, none of them his by blood. The moment I woke up I checked myself out of the hospital, with my parents and Asher moving against him. Julian's company teetered on the brink, and he had no choice but to sign the divorce petition. Asher and I now share the sterling Malibu beach villa. Unlike Julian, Asher urges me to work, or at least to cultivate a passion. He tells me women don't have to revolve around stove and family. Cooking can be done together, housework can be split, and clothes can spin in a washer. He prefers the Julia who sparkles and loves something over the Julia who stayed home to time 3 meals to his arrival. With his encouragement I began studying ballet. In my original world I'd loved dance. Watching girls twirl across the studio always filled me with envy. I yearned for the day I, too, could step on stage and shine. In my previous marriage I'd been too busy helping Julian build Vans Tech, too busy looking after him, until I lost sight of myself. Now, urged on by Asher, I finally dared to take the first step. Learning ballet proved brutal, late starters are rare, but Asher stayed beside me, quietly cheering me on, and little by little I began to look the part. The next time I heard news of Julian and Stacy was after my first ballet performance, when Asher came to drive me home, post-divorce. Julian's firm, barely past its startup stability, had been battered by the combined weight of the Vance family and Sterling. Then, at the nadir of his career, he was diagnosed with kidney failure. Stacy happened to be pregnant, so they married at once. Their life after the wedding was miserable. Julian wed her only for the child, and Stacy wed him only for the money. Well matched, in their own way. As the child grew, Julian realized the boy looked nothing like him. A DNA test confirmed the child wasn't his. My wish had come true. The system had not lied. But Julian was trapped. Chronic kidney failure left him dependent on Stacy for every bite, sip, and trip to the bathroom. The moment he cursed at her, she slapped him and threatened to starve him. For the sake of his own life he had to swallow it. So Stacy kept having baby after baby. That night Asher's kisses rained along my ear, his warm breath tickling me until I shivered and tried to duck lower, only to have him lift me right back up. You looked so gorgeous tonight. Everyone in the audience was staring. I wanted to hide you away. Big sister. My face burned. Asher still loved to call me that at the most improper moments, and I still fell for it every time. Asher's side story. I was visiting relatives when I heard some girl had pursued Hunter for 3 years. Curious, I followed her. I watched Hunter corner her on the stairwell and say down his nose, "Julia, why'd you stop chasing me? Keep at it and maybe I'd have said yes." The girl looked at him, and I saw no adoration in her eyes. "I just realized you're not that great. My love and imagination gilded you." Hunter stared for a long moment. Suddenly grew a brain today? She ignored him and ran off. Hunter, who'd been bragging about the girl who adored him, lost the bet and transferred money to us all. I used my winnings to buy her candy, but when I handed it to her she looked terrified and bolted. The panic on her face struck me as adorable. When college started, I was stunned to find we attended the same university, she a junior, I a freshman, different majors. She probably didn't even remember me. She was cute, watering half-wilted flowers, kind enough to feed stray cats. My interest grew. I timed my routes to pass her lecture hall just to glimpse her. Showed up at the cafeteria hoping to run into her. I noted her favorite dishes, her clothing styles. I followed her socials, greedy for every scrap about her. Her birthday came. I bought merch featuring her favorite singer, scored tickets to the concert she badly wanted. I decided to confess that day and waited beneath her dorm for 2 hours. Dusk fell. She finally appeared. I hurried over, only to watch her walk into someone else's arms. I sent the gifts anonymously. The girl I loved was wonderful. She just belonged to someone else. I quietly attended her wedding. She smiled brilliantly, and I sincerely wished her well. Love doesn't have to mean possession. Knowing she was happy was enough for me. After graduation I buried myself in work. Met many women, fine women, but none were her. I figured I'd been poisoned by something called Julia. At a business conference I spotted her husband, Julian. The girl beside him, cozy and intimate, wasn't her. Fury surged. I clenched my fists, ready to punch him. But who was I? I had no right. She probably didn't even know my name. I laughed bitterly and loosened my hands, afraid she might be hurt. I moved to her city. I had no agenda, only the hope that if she ever cried, I could be nearby, even without a title, even from afar. When she discovered the affair and filed for divorce, I was elated. I decided to court her and maybe finally earn a place by her side. Those days she looked listless, her sparkle gone. The dresses she'd loved in college were replaced by sweats. photos. The girl who once wore perfect makeup now went barefaced to the farmer's market. Late at night the kitchen light still burned. The girl who had once shimmered had dimmed. I regretted not confessing in college, not stopping her marriage to Julian. So I picked up my phone and sent her photos and a location, selling myself like a product. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and share with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales. See you next time.